My name's Jamie Simpson. I'm a professional photographer and I'm here to show you how to make better pictures more easily. Today we're going to talk about how to make the background in your photographs more pleasingly out of focus. There are three main things that control this, but the most important thing we're going to talk about is at the end of this video, and it's the one that a lot of people miss, so stay to the end to find that one out. The first thing that controls how out of focus in a photograph the background is the size of the aperture in a lens. If you don't know what aperture is, then aperture is the size of the hole in the lens. It is literally the amount of light that the lens lets through into the camera to the film or the sensor. So in every lens, or most lenses, there is a diaphragm, and that opens and closes to allow light in and out. The bigger the aperture, the smaller the f number, the more light comes in. But also this has the effect on making the background more or less in focus. The bigger the aperture, the smaller the f number, the more out of focus the background is. It gives you a smaller depth of field, we say. So that's the first thing that controls how out of focus a background is. Large aperture, small f number gives you a much more out of focus background. So a photograph taken at f1.4 will have the background far more out of focus than a photograph taken at f8. The second thing that controls how out of focus your background is, or how isolated your subject is against the background, is the focal length. The focal length of a lens is just how long it is from the start to the end. So a 14mm lens like this one is very short. And then you have an 85mm lens like this one, and it's a longer lens. That's all focal length is. The longer the focal length of a lens, the more accentuated the out of focus area in the background is. With wide angle lenses, it can be very difficult to get out of focus backgrounds unless you're shooting with very big apertures. With longer telephoto lenses, the effect of out of focus background and the effect of a wide open aperture is magnified, just like the lens. It is more accentuated. So if you have a large aperture and a long lens, long telephoto lens, anything above a sort of 50mm, then you are getting a more pronounced out of focus effect. On a wide angle lens, it doesn't happen so much. So if you really want to maximize that out of focus background effect, that blurry background effect, then use as long a lens as possible. The third thing that controls how out of focus your background is, and this is the one that a lot of people miss, so listen carefully, it's how close the subject you're photographing is relative to the background. A lot of people don't understand this. So think about the subject that you're focusing, think about how close it is to the front of the camera lens. As that subject gets further away from the camera lens, but the background doesn't move, then the background becomes more in focus. If you watch this video here, which is just taken on an iPhone, you'll see as I move the phone closer and further away to the subject, the background isn't moving, the subject isn't moving, but look at how out of focus the background is when the phone is further away from it compared to closer than it. So if we want to make something more out of focus, we bring the main subject, or the camera, or the phone, closer to the main subject. So you can either do this by, like I say, bringing the camera closer to the main subject, or you can bring the subject away from the background. This is things like flowers, you can't really bring them away. But if it's people, or if it's a small object that you can move, then you move that object away from the background so it's coming closer to the camera, and then the relative distance from the background to the object is much larger than the distance from the object to the lens. This hugely affects how out of focus and how blurry the background is in a picture. So if you combine these three effects, these three processes, three skills, you've got the aperture, shoot as wide as possible, your telephoto lens, or your focal length, shoot as long a lens as possible, and take your subject out away from the background as possible, or bring your camera in as close as possible to the subject. You combine all of these three aspects and you will get some really nice out of focus background, blurry background in your images. I put some examples in this video so you can see them. I really hope that you got something from the video. If you like it, then give it a thumbs up. If you like this, check out some other of my videos, and if you like the channel, then please subscribe. If you think someone might benefit from this, then send them here. And if you've got anything that you'd like to try or like me to cover in upcoming videos, then just put them in the comments below. And I'd really love it if you could send me or show me in the comments any photographs that you've tried with these effects and the results that you get. If they work, if they don't work, any problems you encounter, then please just stick them in the comments, and thank you so much for stopping by.